Hey guys, what's up? So here's going to be my other formal big video that I wanted to do about the UI, the filter system, and everything that I mentioned in my last video. I also want to make a couple of small announcements as well, just sort of reminders. So without any further ado, let's dive right in. The first thing I wanted to mention actually is I wanted to note that somebody managed to grab my name during the beta, so if anyone sees an SL-Gremory- running around, that is not me. This is my IGN up here, and anyone claiming otherwise is just wrong. So this is my IGN up here, and let's move in further to the shop and the filter system. I wanted to go around here. So looking at the equipment slots, this is kind of the thing that I was like, okay, this actually looks pretty cool. I like how you can scroll through all this right here, but there's a couple of things that throw me off. First of all, we don't actually have pictures of the guns unless you actually click on them, and although the actually like detail of the data and stuff on the gun here is very good, and you can repurchase directly from here, that's very cool, and I like that a lot. They don't differentiate very well between whether you have something rented already or not. You have to kind of look over here for the duration and like come over here and say like, oh, default item, okay, primary, none, I have 1 day on it. This just seems very random and thrown around. I know it seems to be filtered currently by the type of weapon. That's kind of interesting, but I feel like it's not taking up as much of like space as I would like have it take up, I guess. Like, so my character over here is nice, but I wish that this was more like open. I feel like this is kind of condensed a little bit too much, and that they're relying you to work on this filter over here too much. So if I really want to go hunt down like a particular sniper rifle, I got to scroll all the way down, okay. Now which sniper do I want to find? I have to scroll through, like imagine you have a lot more snipers in this and like fills up like all of this. You have to go all the way through and look for a very particular name, and because all the texts are very similar and it's very small font, it's kind of hard to quickly find which ones you want. It's not as nice as the old one, I suppose, where you could just go through and see like, okay, the font's big enough that you can sort of blaze through and see exactly what you want. And also the way it's kind of sorted here is kind of bizarre as well. I feel like there's no rhyme or reason to this. The TPG-1 Pro is right next to the Super Magnum, is right next to the Lynxes and the Gile. Like, this doesn't really seem to have a lot of rhyme or reason as to where things are placed. It's just, I don't know, that's how I view it. I just don't think it's very well organized there, but that could do some more, they could use some more work on that. Like, see here how you have a whole bunch of assault rifles. Like, let's say I came in here, and what's one that I have here? Okay, the AT-22 or like the Rec 7 Rangers. Like, let's say I'm coming in here looking for that. I'm going to scroll up, go looking for one, and I'm going to scroll through this a few times, and then eventually you'll finally get to it, but it takes some time. It's like, it takes time to kind of mentally work through all this, and if you really want to use the filter system, you're going to come to assault rifle, click apply, and you still have a bunch of these to dig through. So I don't know. I just don't feel like this is as clean as it used to be, and I don't really like how they have the reliance on the filter system, but that's going to apply a lot more when we get to the actual shop. And also equipping things. Before we get to the shop, I don't like how the backpack is separated. I think that's annoying. I think that's really annoying. I wish they had like a separate thing down here for your backpack, kind of the way they always have had in Combat Arms. I don't like how that's a separate tab. And gear, I feel like this is another thing. How I said this was so condensed over here. It'd be cool if there weren't tabs for this and that you could just have this open. Like, if there's anything you're going to have a tab for, have it be for function stuff like this. Gear licenses, weapon licenses, experience passes, GP passes, all that stuff. But if I were to design this myself, I would have had, like, the weapons be, like, right here. I would have had the weapons be right here. I would have had your backpack be below that. I would have had your gear right here. Because if you go over to the gear tab, you just got these typical 5 slots. I would have the gear tab right here. And the cosmetic slots are only 4 as well. So they would go down here. And that's kind of like what I would do. And if you had function, like let's say, for example, you had an EXP pass on. That could go in the very bottom left down here. Like, you come over to the function tab to actually change what your function thing that's turned on is. But like, let's say whatever function things you have on, you could have like a bar down here that would tell you exactly what functions you have on and that sort of stuff. That'd be really cool, I think. And also on top of that, I do actually, however, okay, they got a filter on right now. That's fine. I like how you have to actually click on the weapon to see the attachments. That's actually kind of useful because then you come down here. Okay, let's see. I don't really have a modification on it right now, so I'm still learning this thing as well as I go, but there are no modifications that can be equipped on this weapon. Alright, so that's actually not too bad. But I like how you actually have to come over and click on the weapon to see what's on it. I feel like it does keep it less cluttered, at least in terms of the picture. But I wish that they would spread this out a bit more, be a little more liberal with the space that they were taking up for this UI. I feel like it'd be easier. Also, one thing that I've noticed, I don't know if you guys have had this issue, but every time I log into the game, it resets me with this exact loadout. I don't know if that's something that you are all experiencing, but every time that I log back into the game, I have the same loadout. I have to go reload myself out entirely, and I really hope that's not something that's going to get planned to be put into the final product, because that's annoying. I like logging onto the game because some things like my knife, my grenade, my pistol, I very rarely change those. I'm only going to change my primaries really consistently and maybe some of the modifications I have on them, but I'm not a huge fan of how that just keeps resetting itself. I'm hoping that's just a bug and not a feature, but we'll see about that. Not to mention earlier how I was saying with the weapon stuff over here, how it's so hard to find particular pieces of weaponry. Oh gosh, if you have a lot of gear, like this actually isn't a lot of gear, but imagine having some of the gear that some of the higher tier players have in this game, where you just have oodles of gear. Like we're talking 100 to 150 things of gear. That's ridiculous. Having to scroll through all that to find little pieces of gear that look pretty much the same until you find the one you want, and also how it's very difficult to compare. Like if I'm clicking on this and then down to this, it's very difficult to compare like what type of things you want, like for your speed and protection, for example. So like let's say I'm comparing it to something up here. That's really clunky. I'm not a huge fan of that. If what they had some sort of like compare feature down here where you could like click and drag something down to here, and then you could like run through and click on other things, and when you clicked on something it would come up in the bottom right down here, that would be really clean. That way you could see exactly side by side what's going on. That'd be super neat. On top of that, I just am not a big fan of this whole like how long it takes to scroll through things. I know that's literally just a part of the whole thing, like where it's like, okay, the more stuff you have, the faster it's going to be to scroll, but I feel like this is just kind of really clunky. I find myself like spinning my wheel forever just to get up and down this list, which feels kind of stupid to me. Also, not to mention, clicking on it again, like in the GUI we have now, if you click on something again, it will like recompress it, but like once it's open, I can't click on this to recompress it again, which I find really annoying. And the cosmetics is sort of the same deal. Functions the same deal. Especially since functions, like, once you sort of have something, it doesn't really go away. So, like, for example, when you start acquiring a whole bunch of different, or acquiring, rather, a whole bunch of different, like, passes for EXP and GP, you're just going to have this massive, endless list of stuff that's going to be very difficult to dig through. And who really wants to go through and use this filter every single time? Now, yes, if you're saying, oh, I just want a sniper in general. Like, the filter is actually, it works very well. So, like, I'm not worried about that. The filter works great, and I love this UI of how you have all your, like, assault rifle stuff right here, submachine gun. That's very well designed. I like this design. It's very good. However, I don't want to be forced to rely on it like we are now. That's sort of like my big deal, especially, like I said, once we get to the shop. But actually, let's go over there right now. Let's go to the shop right now. So this I find to be really annoying. I like how they give you the pictures here. This is nicer. I like how they give you the actual pictures of the gun. That's definitely, that's better. I wish they would do that in the inventory as well. Same with the gear and stuff. It's a little bit easier to find what you want to find. But if you want to find a specific weapon, because obviously there's a ton of weapons in the shop, you basically have to use your filter. Like, let's go over here. Let's say I want an assault rifle. And that's all I'm going to look for. Then you've got to scroll through all this. That actually is not too bad, but for the shop menu, they need to extend this. Like, bring it down to here. Bring the shop menu all the way down to here so we can see everything at once. And the ordering actually is kind of random as well. Like, I wish they would allow you to actually organize these by archetype as well. So I come up to filter up here, and let's say I just want, assault rifles. It's one thing to allow you to do it by grade or by promotion or whatever. So if I just want to go to, like, sale, I guess. I don't even, yeah, there's not even any sale weapons on right now. That was a bad example. I don't even think they have any of that actually right now. But anyway, I'm going to come back up here to the filter, turn that off, apply that. So we have all of our auto rifles here, all of our assault rifles and stuff. That's fine, but I wish you could organize it by archetype, like by damage or whatever. So like damage range, here to here. And you could like organize like by damage. So you can go highest damage to lowest damage and stuff like that, or highest fire rate to lowest fire rate. It makes it easier to find what you want to find. At least that's my opinion. So I just feel like they could add a few things to this as well. And try not to be so conservative with the space they're taking up on the screen, because honestly, I do not need this much space to look at my character, and quite frankly, the background here with Junk Flea isn't that attractive. It's just another picture. No one cares. So we kind of want to have a little more room with this so that we can actually get around. Actually, it looks like they do have a few things labeled hot, so let's try out that feature as well. So if I come over here and click hot, yeah, that's actually kind of a nice tag. I like the way they've drawn these pictures. I like the price. I like how they have a little hot sticker. This is very concise, easy to find. You can flag things like that, it looks like. So if I come back up here and I go assault rifle and I look at everything, and I want to like go flag a few things. Like let's say I wanted to buy these and this. Is there like a way that I can just find what I've tagged? It doesn't look like there is, so that's actually also kind of annoying as well. So I'm not actually sure if that's what that's even for, but I would assume that it's something like that. It looks like I'm tagging things anyway, if you ask me, so I feel like that's what it should be used for, but I could be wrong. Anyway, I'm not a huge fan of some things, but there's some things that I think are done very well. Like, honestly, I think the individual panels, like I said, are very good, but the layout, I think, is done very poorly for the overall size of the screen. However, I do like the more professional look that this had, sort of like when Commodore very first came out. If you guys remember back to, like, 2007, 2008, even early 2009, they had this layout that was very, very professional looking and concise. I like this setup. It's very futuristic. It looks more like something modern you might find in a game. Sort of looks a little like Black Ops in terms of, like, their really professional looking layout and stuff, but I do like the sort of, like, old old style colors that Counter-Strike used to have. This definitely appeals to me as an older player. I think maybe they thought about that, saying like, oh, we have a bunch of older people playing this game. We have a bunch of people who have been with this game since like, 10 years ago. And so maybe they would appreciate something like this. Maybe that's a little bit of a note thrown to us there, and I do appreciate that. I think it's kind of cool. Also, it looks like this is sort of a wish list tag now that I get a better look at it over here. So if I go over here, come over to my wish list. Yeah, actually, that's a pretty neat feature too. So that actually does allow you to flag certain things. So that's very well done too, now that I get a good look at it. But I do think they've done a good job with the tabs on here, cosmetic function gear. It's very easy and quick to get to everything, and that you have different filters for every single thing. So they didn't like try to cram all of this onto the same one as like the weapons. I think that's really cool. I think that's very well done. So there's definitely things they've done very well here, but I think they definitely need to, capitalize on more of this area over here, expand and kind of like make it easier. So like ease of use, get to things quicker. But as far as size and fonts and things that you can see over here, I think it's very accessible, very simple to get to and use. So I think that's very nice, and I do appreciate the time they took in to put in that. And then up here, I think it's very easy to get to all of your profile stuff. This is all nice and simple. I think this is all very well done. I have no qualms with that. But that's my general commentary on how I feel about the new UI. I will be doing some more detailed stuff on the HUD for in-game gameplay, and I will be doing a more in-depth comparison with graphics and such, as I did sort of like in my last video, but I'll be doing a more in-depth thing with that, because obviously with the new update being all about graphics and stuff, people want to know like, okay, what's the best graphics settings to play on? How am I going to get the best frame rate? How am I going to get the best gameplay out of my computer? And so I'm going to give you guys a more in-depth commentary on that sometime in the next coming week or so. So I will see you guys in the next video. Shadowlance out.